This is a short mini lecture on thesis statement delivered video style. So this lecture is going to cover sort of what I call the DNA of the thesis statement. And it's important to think about the fact that the thesis statement really is the most important fundamental part of your essay. If your thesis statement isn't absolutely clear, then it's very difficult to write a thesis statement driven essay. And a thesis statement driven essay is what you're looking for. It will feel coherent and develop really naturally from the argument you're trying to make. So think about this core formula for making a thesis statement. Limited subject plus precise opinion equals your thesis. So let's talk about limited subject for a second here. Having a subject is usually not a problem for most writers. It's getting it limited. And this really depends on what's the scope of your essay. If you're writing a 500-word micro essay, you're really going to have to limit that subject. If you're trying to write a senior thesis, you're probably going to have to blow that subject up broad enough to have some subdivision that can be covered in a larger development. So let's just look at a really overly simplified, again, version of a thesis statement, and we will look at which part is the subject and how is that subject limited, and then which part is the opinion and what makes it precise. Okay, so let's just say okay, two-party political systems are bad. Okay, it's not a very good thesis. It's okay in the front end, right? We're not just talking about political systems, we're talking about two-party political systems. And our opinion is that they're bad. Well, we can improve bad for sure if we become more precise about our opinion. Because a two-party system is sort of the thing, that might be a limited enough subject. Let's see if we can make this better. Now, that's better. Two-party political systems lead to ineffective governments. Okay, so the RN, governments. So you'll know your thesis statement is on track if the natural question that arises from that statement is why or how. So two-party political systems lead to ineffective governments. Well, you could ask this question, how? Why? And then the body of your essay, or the core of your argument, becomes an answer to that question. Well, maybe one reason why might be because there is polarization among the voters, which then one could argue leads to domestic strife. Okay, we can fix the words later. Another reason may be that legislative gridlock, right? Does gridlock work in that case? You could maybe put a little question mark by it, or you could highlight it and say, maybe I can come back. Maybe that's not exactly the word I'm looking for, but that's the word I think I might mean. Maybe you could just sort of, that goes back to ineffective, right? And this really is important. Now, you could ask yourself the question, if the voters are polarized and it's domestic, is that ineffective for government? Well, perhaps not. But legislative gridlock is, assuming gridlock is the right word we're looking for there. So this is the way you would start to shape early pre-writing for a thesis statement once you get it. And you can continue to move back and forth between what are my reasons why, and how do those reasons why inform the two halves of my argument. The first half being two-party political systems, and my argument being that they lead to ineffective governments. So let's change the color on this one. Notice that the other thing I want you to pay attention to is the precise opinion word. So I call that the POW, or sometimes it's the POP. So precise opinion word or the precise opinion phrase. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? It depends on what works best for your argument. In this case, ineffective is our precise opinion word. That is the descriptive word that we have to prove, that they are ineffective. And then we have to show how, and with evidence, right? We might include something to do here with, let's just say that it makes it more open to corruption. Let's just say, wow, we've got some interesting things happening with the color here. So let's just say none there. And also, okay, maybe corruption is a problem that you have here. Maybe you have excess focus on party re-election, maybe re-election of members of your own party, something like that. This is where you brainstorm, you come up with all the ideas you can, and then you start to refine each idea, you throw them out if they don't make the cut, and you keep coming back to your limited subject precise opinion. With a specific focus on, do all of my points prove my precise opinion word? If they don't prove that word, you have two choices. You can change your precise opinion word to match what you really might be thinking about the argument, because that's what shows up when you start to try to say why. Or you might change the answers that say why to match the precise opinion word that you have here. So I contend that, and I think we're going to continue through this course to try to prove that any thesis statement has at its heart somewhere a limited subject and a precise opinion, and that the bulk of the essay, all the content that follows, really is just giving us reasons why or how in response to that. We'll talk a little bit later in the term about two-stage theses, a two-stage thesis statement where you have to prove that one thing is true, and then you might have to prove that that your solution will solve that problem. So those are some more sophisticated models on that. But thesis statement, get ready to hear a lot. Limited subject, precise opinion word. You'll hear those that vocabulary a lot in my lectures, and you'll see that in my notes. So let me know if you have other questions about that.